Greetings War Thunderers, this is Longshot with you again, with my guide to flying the Bf110 C-4 in arcade. The 110s were versatile aircraft, designed for air superiority, interception and ground strike capabilities. In past versions of War Thunder, this plane was noted for exceptionally strong rudders that were capable of turning the plane on a postage stamp, and powerful engines with good acceleration, climb rate and high altitude performance. Combined with its devastating weapons, those attributes made it a Tier 1 plane to be feared. Now the plane itself has a long wing, generating plenty of lift, and of course the cluster of weapons on its nose, 4 light machine guns and 2 FFM 20mm cannon with plenty of ammunition. The flight models changed considerably from the old days, so in this video I'll demonstrate the plane's capabilities as they are now in patch 1.47, and to begin with, I'll look at the armour. There's several plates in front of the cockpit, along with hardened glass to protect the pilot in head-ons, with armour behind and underneath both pilot and gunner. Now it's still possible to lose your pilot in head-ons nonetheless, but the internal components reveal the real weaknesses on this plane. Firstly, let me draw your attention to the fuel tanks, which are highly exposed to head-on attacks, creating a real risk of being set alight, and they're no better protected from behind either. Furthermore, in front of each engine is an oil reservoir, making it extremely easy to take damage that will quickly destroy your engines. This makes head-on engagements, which are usually a strength of heavy fighters, quite a gamble in this plane. Lastly, there's only one thick line of spars on each wing, which are actually quite fragile and easily destroyed if you expose your wings to an enemy. The plane used to be able to tank a lot of damage, hence the introductory music, but it's not like that anymore. It has weaknesses that you need to protect if you want to survive. And with that, I'll take it to a test flight where I'll put it through its paces and see how it handles. Firstly, I'll look at the roll rate, which is on the slow side, although it does respond promptly to a change of roll direction. Next, I'm banking the plane and I'll turn it horizontally, using the elevators alone. I'm looking to see how quickly it loses speed in the turn and how close it comes to catching its smoke trail, which will give me an idea of the strength of the elevators. Now, it's certainly not even close to catching its smoke, so the elevators are fairly weak and no use in a turn fight situation. It's also lost quite a lot of speed after just one turn. I'll drop the landing flaps and see if that improves its turning performance. And as expected, it's losing speed rapidly with the extra drag from the flaps. But have they created enough lift to provide sharp turn? No, not really. Combined with the roll rate, this plane's looking like a poor turner. How about the rudder, which used to be amazing back in patch 1.39 and earlier? I'll apply left rudder and up elevator together, and the plane wants to climb a bit more than it wants to yaw to the side. So as weak as the elevators are, the rudder is worse. I'll keep this climbing spiral maneuver going, and that'll show its low speed handling and the power of its engines. Its speed quickly drops, its nose drops as well. The plane no longer wants to climb or turn at low speed, it becomes a brick with wings. Therefore I need to keep the 110 as fast as possible in combat and avoid unnecessary maneuvers that will slow me down. For a slow Bf110, it's usually a dead Bf110. Next I'll look at the high speed handling, putting the plane into a vertical dive and rolling to see if its ailerons stiffen up as it accelerates. Past 400 km an hour it does slow down a little, but still not too bad, even around 600. The rudder is fairly responsive as well, so the high speed handling is actually pretty good on this plane. I'll pull it up into a vertical zoom climb to see how well it retains the energy from the dive and measure the amount of altitude it can recover. I started the climb at 1,150 meters. As we watch, it's losing speed quickly, but I'll push it right up to the point of stall and then see how well it can recover. Here we go. And it's completely out of control for a few seconds, and then takes an age to recover enough speed to be able to lift the nose and level off for a gain of less than 1,500 meters from the low point of the dive, and that's pretty ordinary. The engines used to be very powerful on the 110, but now they seem lackluster. It really does feel like an early war plane. Next I'll show you various snippets of battle footage demonstrating effective ways to use this plane, along with situations that reveal its shortcomings and can also get you into trouble. To begin, I'll set the light machine guns to stealth, there's no point having too much tracer in the air, and the cannon to air targets. The first thing I'll show is its climbing ability as I try to reach bomber altitude, as the plane used to be a brilliant bomber interceptor. Its best climbing speed is between 220 and 240 km an hour, but it's not a great climber anymore. From a 2,000 meter spawn, you'll reach 3,500 meters after 2 wet periods, compared to many other fighters such as MiG-3s and Spitfires, which can get to 4,000 metres in that time. And the 110's climbing and acceleration does not improve higher up, indeed it slowly degrades. The plane used to be a terror at bomber altitude, but it no longer is. So while it climbs, here's my summary of the tactics I'm going to use with the Bf110. Firstly, I'm going to try and climb and intercept bombers if possible, but if there's enemy fighters above me, I'll dive and look to engage at lower altitudes. When I do so, I'll engage at high speeds only, preferably with a 1,000 metre to 1,500 metre altitude advantage that I can use for diving attacks. Under no circumstances will I try to dogfight with an enemy, using either vertical or horizontal manoeuvres or stalling tactics, as the plane simply isn't capable of such things. It's an interceptor pure and simple, which means being careful and sticking to hit-and-run tactics. When aiming, I want the plane to be stable, as it's very hard to get guns on target while adjusting its roll or pitch. I'll avoid head-ons if possible, unless it's against very lightly armed planes. As the second wet period ends, you can see that I've been climbing sideways to the battle due to the slow climb rate of the plane. I'm hoping to reach bomber altitude by the time the bombers arrive, and that they aren't accompanied by enemy fighters. Now that 111's diving, I won't follow as there's two other bombers up here, and I'm watching the 109 closely as he's obviously a threat if he decides to take me on. I've only just reached bomber altitude, and I'm struggling to accelerate. This plane is simply too slow. The Beaufort's just going to fly off and leave me behind. I will, however, get a shot at this Stuka, but only just. And that's why you want to hunt bombers if you get the chance. Your cannons really do make short work of them. But there was another problem up here in the form of a MiG-334. After I dived to attack another bomber, I saw him above me as I tried to regain altitude, and very soon he was headed in my direction. A head-on against his two cannon probably wouldn't work out very well for me. And by the time I realised he was coming for me, there was no time to turn toward him, so instead I went into a steep dive. But I was too late to do so. He's committed to the attack. So when I thought he was getting within firing range, I broke sharply up and left to avoid him. But in doing so I lost my speed and also lost track of where he was. Newbie mistake on my part, I should have target selected him. By the time I found him again, he was headed back for another pass. I tried to split S beneath his attack and resume my dive, but he anticipated that, and my wings were exposed. And that's what I mean by the wings being fragile. That's also why I dive out quickly now. If there's fighters at altitude, the 110 simply cannot compete with them. The Alpine Meadows map spawns you quite high to begin with, and on this occasion there were no enemies up here to oppose me. So this was a good chance to see what the plane could do if it had altitude superiority. And there's nothing quite like a line of PBYs to get you started. As slow as this plane is, those things are slower still. After they were down, I headed toward the enemy side of the battlefield, and saw another one, along with a Heinkel 111, who was under attack from a friendly KF-45, which, by the way, I now rate as a far better twin-engine fighter than the Bf110, in terms of its flight model anyway. While circling around, I saw a friendly 110 with a couple of fighters on his tail. After looking around to make sure that I was clear of threats, I dived in to intercept. And despite diving, it's taking some time to build up the speed needed to close the range. He turned towards me, and when I saw that, by some miracle he'd set one of them on fire with his rear gunner. Unfortunately, that was also my clearest target, so I took him out, and then went into a climb to recover my altitude, thinking I'd drop down and finish off the second plane quite quickly. But for some reason I was blind and simply couldn't see where he'd gone. He's got to be somewhere. Where is he? Ah, there, right in front of my nose. But what's this? There's not one, but not two, but three climbing pea shooters trying to get at the 110 as well. I can only hit two of them on this pass, but that'll all have to do. I'm thinking I'll extend up and hit the guy who's on his tail as I zoom climb. but they're nowhere to be seen in front of me as I do so, so I've lost him again. Ah, right, he's now behind me. Now you might be wondering why he didn't do something to lose his attacker. Well, the truth is there's not much he could have done, as you'll see in a few minutes when I'll be in the same situation. His attacker seems totally intent on his target, and therefore an easy kill. Now after I took him down, I noticed a couple of enemies that have taken advantage of my preoccupation to climb above and attack a PBY. So I'm zoom climbing as high as I can while checking my surroundings before I look to fly over and engage them. There's a KF-43 who's very dangerous because of its flying characteristics, and a Bf110 because of its weapons. Just making sure I'm all clear. Right, so it's just those two guys. And I decide, and a climbing P-26, right, and I decide to take out the 110 first, so I don't want him getting a shot at me if I get engaged with the 43. So as I approach, I keep hitting WEP and climbing as hard as I can. I need as much of an enemy advantage as possible in case the situation turns ugly. Now, the 110 looks like he's struggling for speed, so it should be an easy kill, but in retrospect I should have taken on the KO-43 first, right now. Anyway, the 110's down, but in the same moment the Hayabusa succeeded in killing the PBY. Let's see if he'll go for a head-on. No. Neither do I have the energy to loop in an effort to get guns on him. I have to dive, and dive immediately. I'm just going into a bit of a scissors with him while I gain some speed, then down I go. And as I expected, I soon see Tracer flicking past. But on the way down, there's that pea shooter, and hopefully it's a lesson to him to check the skies above him. Anyway, I've gained enough speed to leave the Hayabusa behind, or have I? No, I haven't. Not a chance. Those planes aren't as slow as many people believe them to be. He's really close, in fact, so I'm snap rolling to throw off his aim and maybe force an overshoot. Which indeed is what happens. Now I scissor back to keep out of his gun sights, but in the blink of an eye he's on my tail again. This time I cut my engine as I snap roll. Unfortunately, he clips my tail as he overshoots. His plane's fine, but mine is now a mess. It recovers quickly enough out of the spin, and then I'm thinking I might even get a shot at this guy. Very, very sloppy controls now. Just trying to lift the nose up. Right, now I should have him. Hang on. Okay, the black tail really means I've lost my elevators. The lift from the wings was responsible for raising the nose. So that was the end of my contribution to this battle in this plane. The lesson here is don't let a single engine fighter get on your tail under any circumstances. You can't outrun them, can't outturn them. Here's a domination map where the action is all at lower altitude. My usual approach here is to boom and zoom, and in this battle no enemy fighters climbed, so it was easy to take position over the central airfield. I'm looking around trying to decide which target will give me the highest probability of a successful attack, and I go for the Act 7 directly beneath me as he seems to be the most preoccupied. A Spitfire on the runway was also an option, but as you'll see I'll be going too fast to get guns on him. For the moment though, I'm staying on the yak. And I catch him as he tries to climb. As you can see I can't get on the spit. But as I extend I see two planes near the A airfield and decide to continue on and try for an intercept, using the speed out of my dive to quickly cross the battlefield. I'm hitting WEP to keep that speed as high as possible, in the mid to high 500 range. Now the MiG's under attack, so I'll ignore him, and I'll go for the lag, hoping he'll turn in front of me and expose the full profile of his plane. And watch and see how reactive the plane is to aim adjustments. It's quite hard to get on target, but fortunately he flies straight for a second and I'm able to line him up. Then into a zoom climb, and this will gain me far too little in the way of altitude. I barely make it up to 1,300 meters before I'm forced to level the plane. You'll face many single-engine planes with far better energy retention and engine power than the 110. This really is a weakness, but unfortunately one you have to try and work around, because high-speed boom and zoom attacks are what this plane is all about. Okay, I've flown back over the central airfield again, looking for another high-speed boom and zoom. There's a lot of planes down there, so I'll dive in and see what happens. it looks like all these targets are going to fly directly underneath me. With my slow roll speed I can't change my direction to follow them, so I switch to the easy target sitting on the runway. There's a P-38 there, he'll probably try to turn and chase me. Okay, he's dealt with. There's the 38. But I have a lot of speed, and he can't catch me. Indeed, all he does is stall out trying to point his nose after me, and he makes himself an easy target for a passing P-400. So you can see how the speed from the dive protected me from a dangerous situation. Right, what's next? There's a P-36 approaching beneath me, another plane over at A, Chiker, and that's about it for the moment. Okay, the P-36 and a Nishak are chasing the P-400, so I'll see if I can peel one of them off his tail. I just need that P-400 to hold straight for a minute, and if he'd done so I might have hit one of these guys, but he breaks to the left and I can't get guns on target. Now I take a risk here by pulling up, hoping to perform a bit of a barrel roll and settle in behind them for an easier shot. As it is, I loop in on this Hawk. But in doing that I lost a lot of speed. Okay, that's the P-36 down, but the Ishak is now on my tail, and I'm certainly not fast enough to outrun him. But fortunately, friendlies quickly take care of him for me. There's several enemies at A now, so I'll extend in their direction once again. And great, there's the Chiker. Looks like he's intent on killing ground units though. Let's hope it stays that way. Hopefully he'll give me a nice easy shot at him. He seems to be jiggling around quite a bit. And no, I can't get guns on him as he loops past. That should be enough to take care of the SB-2M. Now let's see if I can intercept one of these annoying little fighters. Now if I was flying an average single-engine fighter, I'd rate my chance of killing this Chiker quite highly. After all, he's taking little notice of me at all. But the 110 is just too clumsy. Try as I might, I cannot get guns on target. It's like trying to hit a mosquito with a sledgehammer. In this kind of situation, the 110 is just out of its depth. It's the wrong tool for the job. And now the Chiker is going to cap the airfield, and I simply can't stop him. I know what he's going to do, but my plane just isn't fast enough to close the distance in time. Game's just about over now, so I'll see if I can get one last kill before it ends. Now I showed you this last part to demonstrate the awkwardness of the 110 in these situations. It really does prefer clean, high-speed engagements against unsuspecting targets. That's the role it's designed for. And here's another example of the fragility of its wings. I'm going to finish with two full games, though I'll skip the parts where I'm extending and zoom climbing. Both are on the Britain domination map, and in both I ended up with 9 kills, but that's where the similarity ends. In this first one, I've started out by climbing, but there's a stack of enemy fighters at altitude, so I'm diving to keep under their radar to attack planes near the runway. Now I'm coming in way too hot. Shots didn't line up, no problem. I'm using that speed to loop back, and I'll have a nice deflection shot on the 109 for the first kill. Then I fly back toward my spawn to carefully climb and prepare for the next engagement, keeping an eye on the planes at altitude as I want to avoid attracting their attention. Okay, ready for the next run. Uncrowned 112A0 come right at me. I do not want to head on with him. Just duck above him and then ignore him completely because there's a nice deflection shot presenting on the TBF beneath me. And as before, extending away, not climbing until I'm sure that I'm clear, which I am. Okay, came back for the third pass. 110's looking potentially interesting, though he's running away from me. Now I'm really not sure what I'm going to go for. I'm just going to let it present itself. The Bf110 couldn't quite get a kill on him, no problem. Not going to hang around, but But as I extend, I notice that there's planes isolating themselves, the Bf110 and a Hurricane as well. So I'm hitting WEP to keep my speed as high as I can, while turning back for another shot at them. That's the B5N down. Now let's see if I can get the Hurricane. Speed's still up in the high 300s. Okay, I'm not going to chase him any further. I'm getting quite risky now. I'm right under the furball. All I have to save me right now is the speed. And the fact that those planes have all overshot me. I can no reloading, otherwise I would have risked a shot at that Fogliori. But I turn back towards friendly lines while I reload. Okay, there's a Hawk dancing with a few planes. There's Beaufort, who I probably will get a good shot at here. Set him alight, that'll have to do. And now claw back a bit of altitude. Need to deal with this Hawk if possible. See if I can get a deflection shot on him here. There he goes. Diving in was a P-36C who I hadn't even seen. I've got myself a bit too busy. Obviously I cannot loop after him. Didn't stop me trying. I'm taking these risks because I'm right over near my own side of the battle. If I was doing that kind of thing anywhere near the middle, I'd be toast. But that's enough of that. I'm going to dive away, get some speed, and reset properly before I find myself furballing. Right. Around 800 meters under my belt. There's an H6K I can have a shot at here. Except he's looped up a bit. He's crashed with someone. Never mind. Okay, can extend away over here and see if I can pick up one of these guys. In particular the Hawk. Nice deflection shot presenting itself. No, not yet. He's wiggling around a bit, so I'll just wait. Okay, try again, another deflection shot. When planes turn like that in front of you, and you can just have a nice stable aim, you really do make a mess of them with these guns. Zoom climbing once more, getting a bit more altitude back. I'm not having to gain a lot. 800 meters, 700 meters, that's usually enough. Okay, this Hawk's back again. Really does love coming to this end of the runway and dancing. And I'm just continuing on with minimal turning, hitting targets of opportunity before I'm out the other side, then extending into a zoom climb. Back up to 800 meters once more. Once again I have this Hawk dancing around. Can't quite get hold of him in the deflection shot there. But as you can see, he's presenting himself nicely, full profile of his plane, and down he goes. So that's 7 kills so far. Unfortunately, the enemy in this battle is dominating the runway for the most length of it, so this game is not going well for my team. But I can only do what my plane's capable of doing. A man has to know his limitations. That's definitely the case with this plane. We're pushing forward a bit here, so I'm also pushing forward before going into an attack. Okay, the Henkel is a nice target there. Can't finish him off though. Never mind. There's no other targets in front of me, so I'm going to carefully extend away. But not carefully enough. Remember those planes at altitude? I'd kind of forgotten about them. And I was a bit lucky that guy didn't land some decent shots at me, because he had me completely unprepared zoom climbing in front of him. Never mind, he's flown away. This Gladiator looks like he needs a bit of help downing a swordfish. Won't help him too much because there's a Spitfire here, as you can see. Nice deflection shot. We'll get the full profile of his plane. And here a KO-43 wants to go head on. It's a lightly armed plane, so I can take that. The enemies are all in a bit of a furball there. See if I can pick up either the Peace Shooter or the G50 as they extend out. No good. High speed gradual turn. See if I can sit on one of their tails here. The Peace Shooter's looking probable. Okay, I'm just unlucky there. And here I know the game's just about over, so I take a risk I haven't taken so far in the game. I turn back trying to get another shot at the G50. Probably a bit unlucky not to nail him in that head on. But now I'm in a bit of trouble because he has me targeted. As you can see, I'm trying to run, but then I take another risk. As I said, it is close to the end of the game. Trying for that 10th kill really. And he could have probably shot me down there. And that's enough risks. I'm going to just dive out and trail those guys as the battle comes to an end. Well, my team didn't win, but I'm happy with how I flew the plane in this battle. I didn't really make any mistakes, and I avoided coming under attack until the very end, when I took a few risks pushing for a 10th kill. And I topped the leaderboard on my team. Despite the limitations of this plane, it can certainly get the job done if you stick to its strengths. The next battle was rather different. It all went wrong from the word go, when a climbing P-40 came straight for me, leaving no option but to accept the head-on. And here he comes. Now, his plane was shot down, but mine's obviously in serious trouble. Now I cut the throttle and turned the engine off. Unfortunately, the fire went out, but not before it had inflicted substantial damage that made the handling really sloppy and ensured the imminent loss of both engines. I continued on over to the enemy side of the battlefield looking for a boom and zoom target, and this Typhoon kindly provided one. Getting my wings aligned with his, coming in from behind, full profile of his plane to aim at. And then I continued down, hoping for a shot at one of these biplanes. Might be a bit difficult considering they're both dancing around a bit. Both my engines are now turning red. Only a critical. I'm down to one engine and continuing my run toward this Bf110. Just dancing around a little, I'm going to try and match my wing angle to his. I predict he'll turn back towards his side of the battle, and there he goes. There's the third kill. Now both engines are black. I'm getting still a little power from them, enough to limp out toward my end of the runway. Obviously I know I'm on borrowed time now. It's a matter of doing as much damage as I can before I hit the ground. And what better way than taking a stroll down the runway right into the stream of oncoming enemy planes. Okay, so here we go. Goodness me, the plane's sloppy as hell at the moment. I can barely get guns on target as I try and line up this F2A. At one point I think about landing to cap in this run, but the fire must have destroyed my landing gear. Anyway, let's watch and see what happens. As the cannon come back online, I could have hit the low P-26 directly in front of me, but the other one seemed like an easier shot. I probably could have got them both. Nevertheless, be happy with just the one of them. And the engines have totally died. And it's time to set the plane down. Checking the stats after I spawned in my next plane, I saw 9 kills to my name, which is a lot of carnage for a plane crippled at the start of the game. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Until my next one, I'll see you in the skies.